What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at yield farming and other strategies to earn more Shadow tokens. So looking at Orca, you can see that Shadow is now available. Currently, it's trading at a price of $2.37 per Shadow token, now $2.38. You can obviously see the price pretty easily by just putting in one Shadow token and looking at the USDC conversion rate. So GenesysGo announced that once they did the IDO and people could redeem, they would launch on Orca. They would be tradable, which they obviously are. And not only that, but they would be available in double dip pools. So if you go to the pools tab on Orca and you go to double dip, they're also available or seen on all pools. But you can scroll down and see Shadow USDC as well as Shadow Sol is somewhere on here. Right here, Shadow Sol. And you can see that the APR is 46.2% and 122% respectively. So that's a pretty high APR there. You can see the total amount staked, 7.6 million and 17.5 million. Now, whenever you put money into these pools, as I've mentioned in another video, you have the risk of impermanent loss. And what impermanent loss means is basically it's like a divergence risk. So it's how much do the two assets diverge from each other in price. So for example, the Shadow Sol pool has more staked in it, 17.5 million versus 7 million. And the reason for that is because people think that the Shadow price and the price of Sol may both move up, so you would have less divergence if they both move higher. However, if Shadow moves higher and Sol moves lower, you would have greater divergence. Now, if you look at something like Shadow USDC, USDC is a stable coin, so it's not going to move. However, Shadow can move. And if I bring up this chart here, this is a chart of impermanent loss. So this sort of explains basically at 100%, so current price as a percentage of initial price, 100% means the price hasn't changed. You have zero change to your original funds. Now, if the price doubles, right, it goes up by 200%, you can see that you'll start losing money. So if the price of Shadow doubles, you would actually lose a little bit of money. So maybe like, I don't know, 8%, 10%, something like that. Now, if it triples in price, you would lose even more money. You would lose closer to like 15 to 20%. And if it goes up by 400%, or what is this, 4x, you would lose close to 25%. Now, you can see that you're not losing a crazy amount of money, but the idea is that you're making up for that like loss if you were to withdraw funds in the form of emissions, right? So you can see that the APR is 46%. You're getting 0.53 Shadow tokens for each $1,000 in value that you've deposited into this pool. Same thing with Shadow USDC. You're getting 1.39 Shadow because obviously people think that there's a greater risk of impermanent loss due to the fact that if Shadow keeps going up in price, you're going to lose more money than if Shadow and Sol both moved up in price. Then the divergence isn't as great. So because of that, you're being rewarded with higher amounts of Shadow, and the reason for that is less people have staked here. So I guess that's a very simple explanation of impermanent loss. I hope that's somewhat helpful. But the idea is it's basically like price divergence. So you're going to lose some money due to the prices moving, but the idea is that you're making up for those losses via emissions that these pools are paying out. So here's my take on this. If you're getting 120% APR, keep that value in mind, or 46% APR, keep that in mind as well. What you're doing is you're getting Shadow tokens as well as I think a small amount of Orca tokens. So if we go back to all pools and you find, actually you can just filter here, Shadow, you can see that you're getting 0.02 Orca per day for each $1,000 in value and 0.04 Orca. So you're not getting a ton of Orca, but you are getting some Orca and some Shadow. Now, you have the risk of a permanent loss. So another option is Francium as well as Tulip. They are both leveraged yield farming, which means they're doing the exact same thing. They're literally doing this actually. If we go to Francium and you go to the farm page, real quick though, if you guys are enjoying this content, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, free for you, helps me. Let's get back to the video. You can see that Shadow USDC and Shadow Sol are right here, and it says Orca double dip right below them. What they are doing is they're allowing you to borrow USDC and borrow Shadow tokens at various leverage amounts, right? Like 1.75x leverage, 2x leverage, 2.2. You can change whatever leverage you want, and therefore you're getting a higher APY. You're borrowing funds. You have to pay interest on that borrow. You can see borrowing interest, USDC is 21%, but you're getting a higher APR, so it makes up for that, right? Like it's auto paying that interest while collecting those emissions. So like we talked about on Orca, right? You're getting Orca tokens as well as you're getting Shadow tokens for putting money into these pools. So if you look at Francium, you can put up less capital and leverage it. However, you run the risk of also liquidation risk if you do leveraged yield farming. So if you just go to Orca and deposit funds, no liquidation risk, right? Like obviously your assets can go to zero, just like if you hold Shadow tokens, the price can go to zero. But if you come in here and start putting on leverage, what that means is if Shadow or Sol or whatever decreases in price, you can actually get liquidated. So if you were to do 3x leverage, then a 33.3333% down move would completely liquidate you to zero. So keep that in mind here. However, the idea is similarly to doing these pools and being subject to impermanent loss, you're still subject to impermanent loss, but on an even greater scale because of the leverage. The APR is what's making up for it. So in this case, the 222 million % APY is what makes up the difference. And the reason for this crazy high APY is because the APR is 1,500%, but it compounds every let's see right here. So this auto refreshes, but I think it auto compounds every 15 minutes. So based on that 15-minute auto compound, you end up with a 222 million % APY, because what's happening is you're earning this 1,500% interest, and then every 15 minutes, you're now earning that same interest on the interest that you just earned, if that makes sense. So you're getting more and more interest every 15 minutes because that interest is now earning interest. So it's auto compounding. But one step further, if you don't want to worry about this liquidation risk and you don't want to worry about impermanent loss and dealing with any of that, what you can do is you can take your Shadow tokens and go to the Lend tab. And if you go down to the bottom, you can see Shadow is down here. All you have to do is deposit your Shadow tokens and you can get 159% interest. Risk-free, don't have to worry about impermanent loss. However, keep in mind that you still have protocol risk, which means the smart contracts on Francium, there could be bugs or whatever. You also run the risk of Shadow going to zero, which you do anyways if you hold Shadow or put it into one of these lending pools. But based on this, you'll earn 159%. Now, this percentage does fluctuate. So if we stay on this page, you might actually see it change, go up or down in value. And the way that this APY is calculated is based on the utilization. So you can see that currently the utilization is 94%. There is 193,000 Shadow deposited and 183,000 Shadow borrowed. So if somebody came in and were to deposit another 193,000 Shadow, the utilization would drop to 45% or so, something like that, and a little over 45%. But the point is the APY would drop. So the APY would drop to 10%. So this is a floating APY. It's a floating utilization rate, and the APY goes up exponentially as it's being utilized more and more. But the benefit is you don't have to worry about impermanent loss. If you think the price of Shadow is going to double, triple, quadruple, maybe go up even more than that, you might want to do this because you can potentially still get 158% interest or APY on your tokens while not having to worry about impermanent loss. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. I actually will show you that right now. I have 500 Shadow tokens in here. And I'm earning 158% interest. So you can see I've already accumulated some extra. I deposited 500. You can see I've already started accumulating more. I did this an hour ago, but I've already started accumulating more Shadow tokens. You can see that just went up. Every time this refreshes, it auto refreshes every so often, but you can see the APY just dropped to 129%. So I did some here. My other thought is that I'm going to go into this farm. And, it's hard to say no to 222 million % APY. If we go back to Orca, we can see that the current price of Shadow is 2.39. If I think that this price is going higher, we can see that based on this graph, that even if I think that the shadow price, right, it might diverge from USDC, but if it doubles, triples, quadruples in price, even if it goes up 5x, right, I'm only losing 25%. And if I can get an APY of 222 million %, which is like 4% a day or something, it might be worth doing this, right? That's my point. So I'm going to put a little bit of money in here, and I'm probably going to end up depositing the rest of my Shadow tokens in the lending tab, which is where you just deposit Shadow, and it allows people to sort of borrow your Shadow for that leverage yield farming. So we're going to go ahead and go back to farm, and I'm just going to show you, you can click the farm button. You can see I have 2,382 Shadow tokens available. I'm going to put 500 tokens into this as well, and I'm going to leave it at 3x leverage. Now, I don't want to borrow two assets. I also don't want to borrow Shadow, which you can't right now because utilization is high. You want to borrow USDC. And the reason for this is because USDC does not fluctuate. And this is the key part right here. When you leverage above 2x, you'll have a slight short on the borrowed asset. And if you have a slight short on Shadow, if you borrow it and it starts going up in price, then you have even greater liquidation risk, basically. So we're going to do that. Now you can set a stop loss. And as you can see here, I could drag this down to like 50%. And this just means that I'll get approximately 50% back when the position is closed. But if you're doing 3x leverage, that means that you've now cut your stop loss effectively to if there's a 15% drop in price, I'll be liquidated. And I don't really want to do that. If I'm going to do this, I might as well just kind of go all in and hope that it doesn't drop by more than basically 30% and I don't get auto liquidated, or I need to monitor this position closely. That's sort of my take on it. So I'm actually not going to do a stop loss on this. And that's why I'm not doing a huge percentage of my total assets. So we're going to do 500 Shadow tokens. We're borrowing USDC. It gives you the breakdown of assets supplied. You can see I'm borrowing only USDC, no Shadow, and then it's auto swapping between USDC and Shadow tokens. My kill buffer will be 16.66%, and my total APY will be 222 million %, which is pretty ridiculous. So let's go ahead and hit farm here. It'll pop up. It'll pop up with your Phantom wallet. It can't check the balance changes, but that's fine. We're going to approve, and that's just because there's a lot of things sort of going on, right? Like you're supplying some assets, you're borrowing some assets, it's recalculating the distribution of those assets, and then it's leverage yield farming. So it's doing a lot of things. Phantom doesn't quite know how to do all of that more complicated stuff. So transaction confirmed. We can go up to the top here. We can click this button to auto refresh the page or not. We can also go to my page. You can see total equity 2,392, and the reason for that is I basically put lending and farming. So farming is what I just did. Lending is the 500 tokens that I just am earning interest on straight up, right? So right here you can see my total position is this. I like to screenshot some of these things so we can get the initial details. We are at 3x leverage. I deposited $1,220. So keep that in mind when you're watching your position over time. You can see that US dollar amount fluctuate. So even if you don't withdraw exactly, 500 Shadow tokens, think about it in terms of USDC when you're doing sort of this yield farming, because typically when you go to withdraw, for example, you can minimize trading, you can convert to USDC, and you can convert to Shadow, right? So I can withdraw 100% all in Shadow tokens, which you can see I'll receive a little bit less if I withdraw immediately. I can convert all to USDC, and I can minimize trading. But we will do both of these. The point of this video overall is that there are various ways you can go about this. If you are just going to farm on Orca, I would almost say that you're probably better off just lending on Francium, because assuming there's high utilization like there is right now, you can get 161% without any impermanent loss risk, which is higher than both double dip pools. Shadow Sol is 46% and Shadow USDC is 120%, but you have impermanent loss risk. So you're better off just going to Francium and hoping that the average, you can see 143% is the average APY so far. You're getting a higher percentage with no impermanent loss risk. So you're better off coming here and depositing your Shadow tokens on a lending protocol rather than LPing them, liquidity providing, liquidity pool, whatever you want to call it, with like a Shadow USDC Shadow Sol pair. So hope this video was helpful. If it was, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Would really help me out. Free for you, helps me, it's a win-win, but that's effectively going to be it. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. If you want to see other videos, let me know. I'm looking into how to figure out how many tokens have been collected, so you can see the SSCNFT staking. So if we switch wallets, you can actually see that I have a Shadowy Supercoder NFT staked, and my redeemable balance is 27. However, it still says my balance remaining is 10,000. That's because I haven't claimed any vested Shadow. So once I claim, I'm not sure how you view this. For example, if I wanted to buy another NFT on the secondary market, I want to see how many tokens are left because I don't want to overpay for that NFT. So I'll be trying to look into this and figure this out. Once I do, I'll definitely post a video on how to figure that out. But either way, that's going to be it for this video. So thanks for watching, guys.